Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Thursday, May the 29th, 2025, the 149th day of the year and National Alligator Day, which I thought must have been created some time ago when alligators were on the endangered species list. There are so many alligators now, they actually have alligator hunting season. But Alligator Day was established in 2021 by the Wild Florida Safari Park. And of course, alligators are a big part of life in Florida and other areas of the Southeast as well. Being educated on alligators is certainly important, at least in this part of the country. It's an extremely important day for the millions of Christians around the world. Today is Ascension Day, symbolizing Christ's ascent into heaven 40 days after his resurrection. Protestant churches celebrate the Ascension on the 6th Sunday after Easter Sunday. The two big headlines literally around the world today: a federal court in New York. 3 judges have blocked President Trump from imposing tariffs on imported goods under the emergency powers law that they had been claiming, throwing a monkey wrench into Trump's signature economic policy for sure. This comes as the administration also faces several lawsuits stemming from tariffs as well. The number 2 headline: Trump advisor and the head of Doge, Elon Musk, posting on his X platform last night that he is, in fact, going to leave the administration. We begin with Newsmax judicial correspondent Judge Andrew Napolitano on Wake Up America about the tariffs, then Greg Kelly and Rob Schmitt on Elon's announcement, and we're also going to hear from Judge Jeanine, who was sworn into her new role yesterday.
Senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano, you warned us a couple of weeks ago, I think, on this show that this was coming and that the Trump administration was going to lose based on the reasons that the justices gave, the judges.
This is a unique court. This is a court without a jury. It's a federal court that sits in panels of 3s. In this case, one of the 3 was appointed by Ronald Reagan, one by Barack Obama, one by Donald Trump. Their ruling, Mark, was nothing short of stunning and surprising. They found that the United States is not in an emergency situation with respect to the economy, as the president declared, and they found that the Congress doesn't have the authority to give the president the power to impose tariffs, and they found the statute on which the president relied doesn't even mention or authorize tariffs. So all the tariffs are negated. They gave the government 10 days to do the negation, because this is an enormously complex economic matter now, because the tariffs are paid and collected all around the world.
So here's the question, though, then, because obviously the administration immediately appealed. You said there is a special appeals court that this kind of case would go to.
Correct.
Before it would get to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
But, I mean, who are these judges to say, I don't believe you in an emergency? Who declares an emergency if not the president of the United States?
Great question. The statute itself defines an emergency. So Congress said, here's what an emergency is: a sudden and unexpected event that adversely affects national security or economic prosperity. What did the president say the emergency was? The imbalance of trade. How long have we had an imbalance of trade? Since 1934. So it obviously doesn't meet the definition in the statute. I know a lot of our friends and a lot of people watching now are going to say, why are 3 unelected judges interfering with the ability of the president of the United States to negotiate economic deals for American industry? They're not. They're doing their job of making sure the Congress stays within the confines of the Constitution and the president stays within the confines of the Constitution.
So from a next step standpoint, because obviously the president's going to say and the administration is going to say we are in an economic emergency when you combine the trade deficit with China, using the results of that trade deficit to build its military, to expand its power base. But then you also have 18 countries right now, 180 some countries coming to want to do international foreign trade deals.
Correct.
And this hinders the president's ability to conduct foreign policy, which the Supreme Court hates.
Mark, if I may, this more than hinders it. This undermines it. I mean, why would Ursula von der Leyen, who runs the EU, even be negotiating with President Trump now? Because all those tariffs are off the board. Technically, they're still there for the next 10 days. But the administration, unless the appellate court immediately enjoins this International Court of Trade, which I don't think they'll do, the administration has 10 days in which to wind down the tariffs. So I don't know. You know, I'm not an economist. I don't know what happens with these negotiations that they're in the middle of.
Newsmax chief judicial correspondent Judge Andrew Napolitano on Wake Up America this morning with Mark Lotter. So, Elon Musk, an advisor to President Trump and the head of Doge, says he's going back to his old life. This is Greg Kelly.
Well, I guess we knew this day was going to come. Elon Musk is leaving the Trump administration. I do not like this. However, I guess it was time. It was always a temporary arrangement. I really liked what he was doing at DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I liked the way he was doing it. We were told a couple of weeks ago by President Trump and by Elon Musk himself that, yeah, at some point he would be moving on, and this is that point. He scaled back his activities. He was working there full time, sleeping in the office and all that stuff. His business started to take a real hit. He scaled back his activities, and now he is totally out. Let's put up the tweet if we have it. Elon Musk posting on his own platform. Let's see. He's got a black circle for the profile picture. As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The DOGE mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government. Well, I hope so. You know, there's only one Elon Musk. Elon Musk knocking on some bureaucracy's door. There's nothing like that. The richest and smartest man at the world would like to see your books. That's something. And whoever's going to be running DOGE now doesn't quite have that, no matter how accomplished they are. I think this is one of my favorite moments. Elon Musk holding court with President Trump, also holding court in the Oval Office for hours, really. This is back in February with his little kid there. I think his kid's name is X. And he talked like this gentle philosopher about what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. Let's turn up the volume if you can.
Then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the President, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think?
Isn't that beautiful? Just that little snippet right there. A bureaucracy, democracy. I never thought of it as a cracy, right? Bureaucracy, we've all heard that, but a bureaucracy is a government where the bureaucrats are in control. And we've had that for a long time, and we're getting away from it, and he was helping to make it happen. And he said during that same, he said the keys are two things, competence and caring. You see those words. How could anybody object? But wow, did they object. The hard left went hard against him. And even just Democrats in general, burning his Teslas. And when I say Democrats in general, well, Democrats refuse to condemn it. I remember late night comedians making jokes about this. You know, you compare this carnage to January 6th, right? The horns guy and what? That was the worst thing that ever happened. What about this stuff? Elon Musk, the one and only. I loved how Donald Trump had a peer. You know, he really seemed to have a peer, someone who was on his level. And let's not forget that Elon Musk, you know, in addition to the work on Doge, he helped get President Trump elected. That was huge. His endorsement and the way he campaigned and the way he donated, what was it, $250 million, something like that. And how did the world pay him back? Well, his business took a real hit. I guess his popularity went down, right? Suddenly he was, a demon in the eyes of those who used to buy his cars. I think he's incredibly special. And President Trump, incredibly special to pick somebody like Elon. Not everybody would do that. All right, Elon Musk, thank you very much for a job well done and letting us see more about you. I never really thought of him that much. He was the richest guy in the world, and he was the Tesla guy. Oh, and the rockets. And the rockets. I heard somebody say the other day, he's like a modern-day Einstein, and he's one of us. He's MAGA, and that's awesome. Elon Musk, thank you for a job well done. We'll be watching all of your magnificent accomplishments, which I assume will be the moon and Mars. Boy, would I like to go. All right.
Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports. That's 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. Is Elon really stepping aside now to get back to work on his many businesses, or is it something else, like Republicans in Washington essentially wasting his extremely valuable time? More from Rob Schmitt.
Amid the push for Trump's big, beautiful bill are headwinds coming from some big-name fiscal conservatives. Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, Rick Scott, all publicly frustrated with a reconciliation bill that the Congressional Budget Office claims is going to add to our national debt. Now, the White House claims the CBO is wrong on that. We're going to get to that here in a moment. But in addition to three very popular GOP senators showing frustration, we also have Elon Musk, who's one of the most important people in Trump's orbit. Elon went viral this week when he slammed this bill, claiming it is a budget buster that undermines the work that Doge is doing.
Disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
There you have that. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis actually jumped on Elon's side, tweeting out to see Republicans in Congress cast aside any meaningful spending reductions and, in fact, fully fund things like U.S. aid is demoralizing and represents a betrayal of the voters who elected them. Big statement. He also said this.
Elon Musk went into this Doge effort. He was getting lampooned. I mean, like, they're firebombing his Tesla dealerships, media smearing him relentlessly. His businesses suffered. And yet, we have a Republican Congress, and to this day, we're in the end of May, past Memorial Day, and not 1 cent in Doge cuts have been implemented by the Congress. And I don't think there's any question that Doge fought the swamp, and so far, the swamp has won.
It's interesting because it's easy to love Trump, love the agenda he has, but also at the same time very much agree with what Ron DeSantis just said, what Elon Musk just said, which is what makes this so complicated, right? Those kind of comments, exactly, clearly got the attention of the right people as Republicans push their big, beautiful bill, because the White House announcing today it's quickly putting together a $9.4 billion rescission package, is what they call it, to send over to Speaker Mike Johnson in the coming days. So what's that? Well, these are cuts. It's a cut package that will codify Doge's cuts to NPR and to PBS, also major cuts to several ridiculous expenditures of foreign aid, including reducing xenophobia in Venezuela, Sesame Street in Iraq, sedentary migrants in Colombia, and tons and tons and tons more. It's $9.4 billion in cuts being sent to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, from the White House. So obviously the message was sent very loudly from Elon, from Ron DeSantis. We want to see you guys cutting this government down, not spending. We just went through 4 years of that. That's what gave us inflation. We want to see some action.
So now a recession package of cuts is in the House because the big, beautiful bill doesn't include those cuts or enough cuts. And this is all happening while the Senate works on the current version of the one big, beautiful bill. Senator Rand Paul, is not the only fiscal conservative in the Senate that has a problem with the bill. Back to Rob Schmitt.
We've had guests who come on this show quite often, some of our favorite people, and they give it to us very straight. And they have some real issues with this bill. For the past couple of weeks, we've spoken to Chip Roy, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, fiscal hawks who say not nearly enough is being done to cut the level of spending that gave us such crippling inflation. Here was Ron Johnson just last week.
you're missing the forest that's on fire for the twigs and leaves, quite honestly. I mean, we're going to spend $89 trillion over the next 10 years, taking about $67 trillion in revenue. So that's $22 trillion added to our national debt, taking it from 37 to 59 trillion. This bill, by my calculation, you can dispute it, add another $4 trillion. It doesn't solve the problem. It exacerbates the problem.
So, again, easy to be quite understanding of his position in this thing as well. The CBO claims that this non-discretionary big beautiful bill is going to add $3.8 trillion to our deficits and to our debt over the next 10 years. Now, Peter Navarro is going to contest that claim here in just a moment. But regardless, there is clearly frustration that more is not being done to curb spending. Americans that voted for Trump look at that big, nasty government in Washington and want to get it slashed to bits. That's part of what we so viscerally love about Trump, is that he hates the government as much as we do. This bill makes tax cuts from 2017 permanent. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Very good things, right? Tired of spending and sending so much money to Washington? This helps alleviate a lot of that. Enhances what we saw in 2017 from that first tax cut from Trump. It ramps up defense spending, which most MAGA people support as well. We need to have a strong military. That's very core to what government should be doing. One of the functions we should keep is a strong military, of course. It adds a huge pile of money for deportations, for the wall, and for border security. Also things that most MAGA Republicans, most Trump voters fully support. You have to fix what Joe Biden just did to the country for 4 years. And at the same time, it works to kick illegals off of Medicaid and add work requirements to weed out welfare hustlers in this country. Very many able-bodied people in this country, young people that sit around collecting your money when they could be working. And it works to get rid of that as well. The bill is critical to achieving Trump's broad agenda, but part of that agenda was also cutting out of control government spending.
Great factual analysis from Rob Schmitt. A lot of great tax cuts in the bill, right? A lot of money for things that we need and things we need to do. But how do they do it all without adding another $3 or $4 trillion to the national debt? Last week, I played a segment with Senator Mike Rounds. I'm almost positive it was Senator Rounds who said several times that he liked this part of the bill, he liked that, he liked the no tax on tips, the no tax on overtime, if we can find a way to pay for it. This is President Trump speaking about the bill from the Oval Office yesterday.
I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill. But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to, we'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country.
The president did address some questions in the Oval Office after the swearing-in ceremony for Judge Jeanine Pirro as the interim U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., which was carried live on Newsmax.
Now we're going to take you to the White House, where President Trump is about to swear in Jeanine Pirro as the acting Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney there. Let's listen to the president.
In a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that, Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Jeanine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Jeanine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes. And that was a serious prosecutor. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays. People that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Jeanine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Jeanine. And as its chief, she revolutionized victim protection and bold, innovative policies like very few people even thought of. In 1990, Jeanine became the first female judge in Westchester County history. And following the year, and by the way, very distinguished, had an unbelievable, distinguished career. And in the following years, she presided over numerous complex criminal cases. The reason they were complex is that other judges were not able to understand them. They were called the complex cases. My sister had them, too. They always used to give her the complex cases because other people didn't understand them, including high-stakes felony narcotics trials. Her outstanding judicial record earned her the honor of being named the #1 judge in 1990 by the Independent Fund for Modern Courts. That's nationwide. Outstanding judge. The following year, Judge Jeanine was elected Westchester County District Attorney, became the top prosecutor for a jurisdiction that included some of the largest suburbs in New York City, including Yonkers and White Plains. It's a big deal. As District Attorney, Jeanine tackled high-profile violent crime cases and established one of the nation's most successful cybercrime units to combat online child abuse. She was way ahead of a lot of people. They still aren't there, if you get right down. I mean, from what I hear, they're still not there in many cases back there where we come from. In addition to her stellar legal career, Jeanine also excelled in news media as you know, and she's become one of the most beloved political figures through her time on television because she's been very, very successful at a thing called television. She got out of what she was doing, and frankly, she does them both great, but she's really, to me, she'll always be known as a great lawyer and a great prosecutor, which is what she's doing now. So Jeanine Pirro, I have no doubt, will be an exceptional U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, one of the truly most important positions in our country, of any position, where she will restore public safety in our nation's capital, break up vicious street gangs and criminal networks, and ensure equal justice under the law. You'll see very, very big improvements in the D.C. area, that I can promise you.
And after being sworn in by Attorney General Pam Bondi, let's hear what Judge Jeanine had to say.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, both my friends for many years. Long ago, I went to law school to study about justice and to bring justice to victims of violent crimes, women, children, and the elderly. I fought to give them a voice in a system that was both blind and deaf to their concerns. I dedicated my heart and soul to making sure that there was a system that responded to them. My profile and my prosecutorial successes garnered public attention, and my life took unexpected turns. Through all of this, President Trump, you have remained as steadfast as one of my earliest supporters and champions. You never wavered. You were always steadfast, trustworthy, and confident. Today, Mr. President, you bring me back to my roots. And it is a larger arena, but no less an arena where we need justice, where we need to send a message that justice will be honored in the District of Columbia. And just last week, here in our nation's capital, two people on the brink of beginning their life had hopes and dreams that were never realized because a cold-blooded murderer made a decision to shoot them down on the streets on a cold, rainy night in our nation's capital. This will not go without just accounting. My voice should be heard loud and clear. No more tolerance of hatred, no more mercy for criminals. Violence will be addressed directly with the appropriate punishment. And this city will again become a shining city on a hill in an America that President Trump has promised to make great again and will make safe again. Mr. President, America thanks you, and I thank you.
Judge Jeanine Pirro speaking in the Oval Office yesterday. I know, right? really powerful. That's why I wanted you to hear it in full. You may have heard a clip or two here or there, but I wanted you to hear the whole thing. Yesterday, the Trump administration canceled new student visa interviews for colleges and universities, something Secretary of State Marco Rubio had said they would do more of.
In the days to come, you should expect more visas will be revoked as we identify people that we should never have allowed in because they lied to us. When they said they were coming here to be students, they didn't say they were coming here to occupy university buildings and vandalize them and tear them apart and have campuses hostage. If they had told us that, we would never have given them a student visa.
And obviously standing by his words months later, Sarah Williamson is standing by now live at Harvard and Cambridge University, or Cambridge, Massachusetts, excuse me. Sarah, talk to us about how this student visa freeze fits into the administration's broader crackdown.
Yeah, look, this tug of war, if you will, between the federal government and the university is increasingly becoming more and more tense. Trump has just announced now that they plan on cancelling federal contracts with Harvard University, totaling around $100 million. And it comes, of course, just a day after President Trump announced that he's going to be pulling over $3 billion in federal grants as well, accusing the university of being, quote, very anti-Semitic. Now, federal agencies were told in a letter that Harvard continues to engage in race discrimination, including in its admissions process and in other areas of student life, as well as recent events at Harvard involving anti-Semitic action that is suggesting a disturbing lack of concern for the safety and the well-being of Jewish students. Now, federal agencies have been told to identify which contracts can be terminated by June the 6th. But, of course, critical services won't be cut immediately, but will shift to other vendors. Now, as you mentioned as well, this all ties in with these international students, who we see frequently taking part in these protests on campus, which are being classified as anti-Semitic. U.S. embassies have now been ordered to stop scheduling the interviews for the student visas, saying that they pose a major threat to Harvard's ability to enroll these international students. The university is firing back with that argument and therefore filing 2 lawsuits against both of these actions in court.
That is Newsmax correspondent Sarah Williamson outside Harvard University yesterday. So the university is suing the administration right after at least 2 foreign students at Harvard were charged with assaulting a Jewish student there back in 2023. President Trump and Vice President Vance, who spoke at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas yesterday, Vice President Vance did, they're having lunch today at the White House and probably working on securing their tickets to the Stanley Cup in South Florida. More on that in a moment. There is a White House press briefing this afternoon where Caroline Leavitt is likely to face a lot of questions about what's happening with the tariffs, the judge's ruling, and the president's recent pardons earlier in the week. Then the president will be participating in another swearing-in ceremony. This is for the new chief of protocol for the United States, Monica Crowley, previously of Fox News. So the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers are headed back to the Stanley Cup for a 3rd consecutive year, making this the 6th consecutive year that a team from Florida, of all places, is playing in the Stanley Cup. 6 years straight now. The Tampa Bay Lightning were there for 3 years in a row before the Panthers. The Lightning won 2 of the 3. The Florida Panthers are now looking for their 2nd consecutive championship. They'll be playing either the Edmonton Oilers, which would be a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup, or the Dallas Stars. Edmonton could close out that series tonight in Dallas. In the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder have punched their ticket to the championship after eliminating Minnesota last night. A blowout, I should say, after blowing out Minnesota last night. They'll face either the Indiana Pacers or the New York Knickerbockers, who also play tonight in New York. Indiana is up 3-1 in that series. On Wall Street, looks like another winning day. Stocks opened higher after the news of the blocking of the tariffs. although the markets have come well off of earlier highs, but still in the green. NVIDIA and most chip stocks having a good day after NVIDIA's earnings report yesterday, as we discussed yesterday. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies higher this morning as well. At the time of recording right now, Bitcoin is trading $108,524. Keep up with all of the news today on Newsmax, N2 and at Newsmax.com. Also, make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for all your favorite shows, hosts, and guests. And make sure you have the Newsmax app on your phone so you can stay up to date no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere with the app. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, Friday Eve, right? And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.